There comes a time when silence is betrayal, when obedience becomes surrender, and when standing alone becomes the only path to freedom. He was not born into luxury. He did not inherit power. He earned it through scars, through sleepless nights, through the pain of watching his people suffer, while outsiders thrived off the land they no longer controlled. Ibrahim Traoré did not rise to please the world. He rose because his people were forgotten. He rose because his nation was fractured. He rose because the empire thought no one would dare say no. But he said it, not with words, but with action. He said no to exploitation. He said no to puppet strings masked as policy. He said no to silence when silence would mean betrayal. And in that moment, the empire trembled, not because of weapons, not because of armies, but because one man dared to defy. Because one voice, clear and fearless, shouted what generations had whispered: "We are not for sale. We will not bow. Our freedom is not negotiable." This was not a rebellion of anger. It was a declaration of dignity, a call to every forgotten voice on the continent to rise, to reclaim, to rebuild. He stood against the old systems, the ones dressed in democracy but built on domination, the ones that wore suits of diplomacy but left trails of dependency. Traoré didn't just break the rules, he broke the illusion. He showed the youth that true power isn't in how much you take, but in how much you protect. He showed the soldiers that a uniform means nothing if it doesn't serve the soil it walks on. And he showed the world that Africa does not need permission to lead. Some called him dangerous. But dangerous to who? Dangerous to corruption, dangerous to greed, dangerous to the foreign hands that wrote the rules, then moved the goalposts. Yes, to them, he was dangerous, because truth always is. But to the children drinking clean water for the first time, he is hope. To the farmers reclaiming their land, he is justice. To the young men and women who once dreamed of escaping, he is the reason they now dream of staying. Because finally, someone stood, not for applause, not for fame, but for legacy. And that legacy is this: when one man stands, he becomes a mirror. When a nation stands, it becomes a movement. And when a continent stands, it becomes unshakable. This is not the end. This is not even the middle. This is the spark. The empire thought Africa would stay silent. But Traoré proved it. Africa remembers, Africa resists, Africa rises. So let history record this moment, not as a rebellion, but as a reckoning. Because the man who defied the empire didn't just stand for his people. He reminded the whole world that power belongs to the brave. And Africa has never been braver.